look, because I was down here and I actually had this conversation in my head this morning, like, just in regard to school days, in regard of, I had this whole thing in my head in regard to Canterbury Boys, and in a previous video I related about not doing well in school. I mean, how not well did I do? Extremely not well. And as I said, I used to half jokingly say that my education was TV and movies. And when a few years after I left school, and then as the years went by, I'd be like, I felt that way a bit more. What was my actual education in the school years? It was TV and movies was my actual education. Now going through the subject of school at Canterbury, I was, mind you, I was just thinking about this in my head a few hours ago. I was at Leichhardt earlier today because Michelle was doing something over at Leichhardt, and I was just over at Leichhardt and having a sit down. And so, maths, no. Maths, no. English, I didn't mention English last time. English class, no. I don't even remember what we did. I don't remember whatever we did, because you have to understand that in the 1980s, the way that people were taught things was like, was just, you had the blackboard. I know that's politically incorrect. No, I know that's politically incorrect. You had the blackboard, you had the chalk, and what you do is the teacher would talk about stuff, and at the end of it she'd say, homework, revise this chapter, do it. And so I think in English class we a teacher might have chosen one of the classics, and I probably wasn't interested in that. I don't know. We did a bit of poetry. History class, I think we Miss Holland, and we talked about Russia, but the way that she taught was I couldn't do it. I didn't get it. And because she said some people in this class are just not doing well enough, not to get me, and she said you just need to put more effort into it. And so we'd have Mrs. Holland's history class, and she'd talk. I'm greatly interested in Russia, but not the way that she taught it. And at the end of the class, she'd say, "Summarize this chapter. Summarize it." Oh. And then, you know, the next time we had history class, sometimes she'd say, "Who summarised?" And I'd be like, I'd hide. And she'd say, "You cannot hide. You can't hide." Something to that effect. So, history class, no. Geography class, I think we looked at a map of the world. I think we discussed things that are a bit over my head, so no. I don't remember anything about geography class. I remember nothing about history class. I remember nothing about English class. Had science. I don't remember. Oh, hang on, wait. In regard to science, potassium, sulfur, hydrogen, bronze, copper, ink, gold, lithium, sulfuric acid, carbon dioxide, H2O, iron ore, coal, silver, copper. I already said copper. Potassium, salt, iron ore, and every time we did the experiments in chemistry class at Canterbury Boys. Now, I'll tell you where those rooms are still. When you're on Holden Street, right, and you've got, there's two entrances, there's a couple of entrances to Canterbury Boys, but on the Holden Street side you've got Canterbury Boys, the first entrance when you come up the hill, but there's a middle entrance, right, there's a middle entrance, and you've got an entrance there, you've got the gates, you've got the entrance there, because you go down that way and curve to go through that, underneath that tunnel, and there's a little thing, a clove, and you've got the canteen area. But if you walk up steps in the canteen area, was this where there's a quadrangle, and then so when you're facing outside Canterbury Boys, you've got the science laboratories there, and then you've got the oval. Oh, how do I remember this? Oh, because I went there for 5 years. So it's kind of ingrained in my brain. Science, art class, you might think, oh, you might have at least enjoyed art class. No, I didn't enjoy art class. We had technical drawing class, and the only reason I was doing technical drawing was either compulsory to do it or I elected it because a couple of my friends were doing it. And Michael, my friend Michael Osman, I can say his last name, it's okay, I don't even think he's on Facebook, social media. Michael was, he was my friend since second class. He came to Canterbury Boys with me. He is not a bad tech drawer. And the reason why I only wanted to be there was because Michael was in class and a couple of my friends were in class. I did really badly at tech drawing. Michael enjoyed to design things, and I was really miserable at tech drawing, and the teacher knew that I was miserable and would sort of say, Patrick, you really need to consider your options, this is not your forte. Woodwork, we had woodwork and metal work. Well, I made a toolbox, I think I made an ashtray. I half enjoyed woodwork. It was half enjoyable. PE, probably, what was my least favourite class? I think all of them were my least favourite. Okay, maybe art. I think I enjoyed art class. I didn't even enjoy music class, as I said before. It was just really mundane. PE, PE. I did not. What did I learn from the entire? Actually, you know what? Battle of Hastings 1066. And where did I learn that? Harcourt. About lunchtime in year 5, there was a teacher who wasn't even my teacher, but it was a couple of kids who were in his vicinity, and he was talking to them, and I went over near to them, and then suddenly he just said, randomly said, Battle of Hastings 1066. I never forgot it. Never ever forgot it. What did I learn from Canterbury Boys? Nothing. I didn't know anything. I mean, I didn't take anything in. I enjoyed looking through the books in the library at lunchtime and recess because I didn't want to, because if I went out to the main grounds I'd get hassled, picked on. Bullying from the Lebanese kids. Yeah. Now, that was in year 7, first day of year 7. When did the bullying start? First day of year 7. I had never ever experienced bullying before that. I didn't even know the concept of it, because Harcourt Public, see, Michael's a Lebanese. Michael's a Leb. But he's not patriotic toward that at all. In fact, at Canterbury Boys, the Lebanese kids would hassle him because they'd say, he changed his name. Not going to say what his name was previous to that. He changed his name. And the Lebanese kids confronted him, and they said, that's a good Lebanese name, and he said, I didn't like it. And they ostracised him completely. They didn't pick on him, but they completely ostracised him. And so they wouldn't allow him to be a part of anything, and nor did he want to be a part of their group. Michael is not patriotic at all in that sense, never has been. And what happened was at Harcourt, Harcourt was Aussie. It was an Aussie school, and to my knowledge at the time there might have been a couple of Lebs or Italian people there. There might have been, but we had no concept of bullying at Harcourt. There was a couple of fist fights occasionally, but geez, that was far and few between. Okay, and so I got to Canterbury, first day of Canterbury, first day of Canterbury, quadrangle, but on the second floor up in the classroom, we're lining up, and so someone kicks me in the heel, and I don't know if it was an accident. I turned around and said hi, and they said sharp and turn around. You're an Aussie, and I'm like, I didn't know the term Aussie back then. I actually didn't know it. Really didn't know it. And it would be my nemesis. Nemesis, my arch enemy at school. Yeah, he was a Lebanese kid, and he was fanatically patriotic about Lebanon, and it was pretty bad. And I think it took me a while to clue into this, because I stayed out of his way completely, and he did not like me at all. His name was Abdul Huda. And he had a group of other guys with him. I've forgotten their names now, but about 4 or 5 other people. I think it was Riyad, Alam, I think there was Michael Muslimani. I bumped into him in Campsie a couple of years after high school, and he said, I was a bit first of it, and then he said, oh no, Pat, I'm so sorry for everything that took place at Canterbury. I'm so sorry. But I think sadly that he actually passed. I think he actually passed somewhere in the 90s. I think he passed. And he apologised to me a couple of years out of high school at first of it. He's like, no, Pat, I'm sorry. Because what would happen is that he would actually protect me in the midst of drama at times. And because Abdul he couldn't read, he couldn't write, he didn't understand the English language. I think he only spoke Lebanese at home, which is really, he was fanatical about where the country had come from, fanatical about it. And I just used to, I suppose I could have just whopped him once. The thing about whopping him once is that there is a bit of a problem with that, because there was no fair fighting at Canterbury, and I'd seen 10 lebs on one Aussie happen at Canterbury. So I threw a punch, and I did fall into the Aussie category. There, I did, still do now, but I don't embrace it. And do I even turn this on? For fuck's sake. It's my little light. I like this to be on. Some of the tougher Aussie kids even would take on the one lab kid, then 9 would get involved, 9 on 1. And it used to get ugly, and I used to get freaked out by it. And there was another Aussie kid who would turn up sometimes, and he wasn't after any trouble, my goodness, and he just attracted it. The labs would beat him up, they'd beat him up. And I think since those years have passed, I think a few of them have deceased. One of them got killed in a car accident. One of them was deceased in a car accident a couple of years out of high school for speeding on New Canterbury Road. Someone brought it to my attention. And who was it? Alex Glenn, who was like a Maori guy, but he was with all the lebs because he was tough, and he challenged the woodwork teacher once. He challenged him. Alex Glenn, tall guy, usually used to smile and laugh at me, and then one day he challenged the woodworking teacher. He was about 70 years of age, and the woodworking teacher he said, get the fuck out of my way. You little shit. Fuck off. He says, oh, I'll take you on. And Alex was being real tough with him. He's like, get the fuck out of my way, you little shit. And it was something to that effect. And so some of these labs, I think even the police had to come in once. We had the worst year there. I think we had the worst year. Because you've got all these forms together. Our grade was like just, our year 10 formal was cancelled because of the Lebanese kids. There was 30% to 40% of us who were behaved, but then everyone wrecked it because the principal and the deputy said, you're not getting a year 10 formal, you're a disgrace. And there was an assembly called for this, and everyone would call up the assembly, and the deputy said, you can thank these little smartasses down here, because they've just ruined it all for you. You don't get a Year 10 form because you're a disgrace, and everyone gets the consequence for that. I got attacked. I used to get attacked in physics class. Mr. Colic physics class. I used to get attacked in that class. Mr. Colic left the class Monday for a minute, and I got attacked. And I left and walked home. And the thing was, there was no fair fights at Canterbury. It was, 6 or 7 lebs on one guy. I'd seen it happen. And what did I learn from Canterbury? I didn't learn anything from Canterbury. My education was Gilligan's Island, as I said, Flipper, MASH, Dynasty, Greatest American Hero, Baywatch, Renegade, Knight Rider. On Sundays, the Andy Hardy Family. What else was on television? That's Lost in Space, which I didn't. Lost in Space. Danger, Will Robertson, Danger. And you had the Muppet Show. I used to enjoy the Muppets. Greatly loved the American TV shows and the American movies. Felt really at home with that. You had I Dream of Jeannie, and you actually had a show called Maverick, because Mel Gibson did a remake movie based on a series in I think it was the late 90s. He did that. Maverick was on about 4 a.m. in the morning, along with Bonanza. Bonanza used to, but rarely did I see it. It was always strange. If I turned on TV at 4 a.m. and Bonanza was on, I was like, oh wow, this is a different dimension. This is exciting. This is really exciting. What is it? and Elvira's horror. So I'd go to school for the day, be very disinterested, wouldn't be able to take anything, come home, and then TV, movie, world. And felt so much better with that. I was like, oh, okay, I'm learning something now. My grades were terrible, really bad. English class, Patrick is not paying attention. Patrick is not doing well. History class, Patrick needs to consider something else. He is not good at taking notes or anything. Maths class, Patrick is not focused. He's failed his last exam. Might want to consider his options. Oh, goodness. And technical drawing, well, Mr. Day said Patrick needs to seriously consider his options, of which this is not one of them. And he actually said, you're going to fail Year 10. I did fail Year 10. But somehow I continued on to Year 11. I did Year 11. I did Year 11. How was Year 11? Not much different. It was all the same. I just kept getting... I did so badly in Year 11 that I transferred to Dolly Chai to do my HSC. I went to Dolly Chai, and that was totally different. There was no bullying there. It took me a bit to get used to it. 2 guys from Canterbury there. I had a conversation with them, and it was all good. I said, well, why are you here? They said, sorry about the things we might have done to you at Canterbury. I said, why are you here? They said, we can't handle Canterbury. I'm like, you can't handle it? He said, no, we were in danger there. We had to get out. We had the worst fucking year, the worst grade. We really did. It was so bad because of the labs, and the labs caused so much trouble. And they challenged the teachers. The teachers would, art class, there was a French guy. He'd come in, I didn't have my glasses on, so I can't tell. I don't know, I'm just going to keep going. Look, there was a French guy, and he was new to Australia. And in art class, talking about 4 days, this wonderful painting, he brought it in and he started, it's fantastic. Unfortunately, the labs in the class were very threatened and intimidated by that, so what they did was one lunchtime, they went into the back room and destroyed it. And the teacher she screamed at them, she yelled at them, she told them exactly what she thought of them, and they challenged her back, and she said, you are so disgusting. She said, I don't even know what your problem is. she said, you just have a lot of choice words for them. Anyway, this guy, I think he did another painting. He just whipped one up, and he did another one. He was a very calm person, and but that is what the atmosphere at Canterbury Boys was. And there was a lot of fights. I was even in a few myself. I got pushed into a few of them. Not willingly, just pushed in. It didn't last very long. I'd sort of walk away from them because who am I supposed to be fighting here? And, like, who am I supposed to be fighting? I don't mean against this guy, but we got pushed together. They go, fight, 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 and I'm like, so I threw a few punches, and I'm like, I felt bad because they really hadn't done anything to me. Just fuck. And so I was considered probably one of the weakest kids in the grade, I suppose, back then. You know, in terms of 80s march onus and whatnot, whatever within the school was. I was a very weak kid in regard to that, and I was in an atmosphere where I was not able to learn properly. I was distracted by what the fuck's going to happen to me next. And so I hid in a library at lunchtimes and read through the encyclopedias, and in the back room in the reference room, which is okay. So what it was the back room, the reference room was the private room, and that was safety room. That was the safe room. You go in there and no one can really get to you or touch you. And all the nerdy kids and all the sort of weaker kids were in the library at lunchtime. I never went out on the playground, never went out in the field, because that's where that's where that all was taking place. And I never participated in anything else. Like, I really did not wander the grounds of the school during lunch. There was a schizophrenic guy. He used to wander the corridors, and I really felt for him. Demetrius something. I remember Steven Sturgio, Demetrius, Luigi D'Alessandro, Norman Kiproff, Carsten McKay. Carsten McKay was a 4-unit student, A student and everything. Quite pompous, but Richie was, I don't want to say Richie's last name, I don't know if you want me to, but Richie was excellent student, really excellent student. He did really well in high school. Richie's very smart. Richie's very smart. Richie was in the top classes. Roger Borg, who was friends with Michael. I saw Roger Borg outside of school once. The other guy, Brad Haywood. He got into a fight with Leps one day. Did really well for himself, but unfortunately they were involved. I don't know what it was. He bought a pair of sneakers at school. They knocked them off. He confronted them. It was on. In the 80s in high school, that's how things got resolved, is you had a fight. That's what happened. Any of the other students that I remember, can't remember their names though. Some of the faces I remember, but not the names. There was a guy in school who was really brilliant. He got this job outside of high school. He got sent all over the world. It was really... Unfortunately, I just can't remember. I can't remember his name right now. That's going to complicate any minute, isn't it? So, 0 for high school. 0. I got my Year 10 certificate. It wasn't worth anything. It was a fail. everything improved. After high school, that's when I started to learn. After high school, when I left Hill, completed my HSC, got on with life, started to learn. I started to learn then, and I'd already been learning through TV and movies before then. And then I continued on with TV and movies. And my high school years were a void limbo. Void limbo. Not constructive. And I started to learn everything about life and what I after high school had finished. And didn't reflect back on those years for a very long time. And then 91, found theatre, joined theatre. I joined the theatre, you'll see. And that was really good for me. But I suppose that because of my experience at Canterbury, I suppose I carry a bit of roughness around with me of sorts. A little bit, just fight for things sometimes. I mean, I don't mean I just be aggressive to get things sometimes. Yeah. This has been going for 26 minutes, and yeah, 26 minutes now. I think I'm going to stop it because I got the glasses. Anyway, I'm tired today. Whew. Okay. There was a metalhead population in high school. There were the metalheads who did not wear their school uniform. And just as I stopped recording then, I remember that metalheads in high school were weirdly separate from everybody else. And I was sort of falling into that category. They kind of made fun of me. They didn't quite. There was a few of them that didn't, but most of them did. Like, who's this kid who's trying to get into Dio and Ozzy and Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue and Poison and David Lee Roth and Van Halen and Slayer and Metallica and Anthrax and which I was, and so I was. They were aware of me, but kind of they sort of made a bit of fun of me in that respect. Yeah. And then I saw Velarde and Marcello. Velarde Staphylopoulos, Marcello Rizzuti. I saw them at Hoyt in 92. I was like, hello. And I was like, hi. And that was about it. And I think I was wearing a GNR t-shirt. I think I was wearing a GNR t-shirt. Around about that time I was wearing GNR t-shirts. So, did the heavy metal kids at high school invite me into their groups? No. I didn't know Frank properly at that point either. I didn't know him properly. I got to know him properly because I got to know him properly outside of high school. And Richard did not know Frank. Richard got to know Frank properly outside of high school. And of course Frank, who's Pete's brother Frank, Peter's anti-sadistic execution, right? Oh look, most people refer to him as Sloth. I never have. I call him Pete. But anyway, yeah, Frank's brother, Pete, right? And yeah. So I started to wear metal t-shirts to high school, and I would have my blue shirt, button shirt over it. But there was a couple of kids at the time who would just turn up. They didn't even attempt to wear their uniform. They used to get away with it. On occasion they get pulled up, so you say, "What are you doing? Go home, or come back tomorrow with a proper uniform." Because they would literally have the tight black jeans and the t-shirt. The American system is quite good that way, isn't it? You just wear what you want. Do you need a uniform? I don't know if you need a uniform. In Australia here we have uniforms. In New South Wales, in Sydney we have uniforms. Is a uniform completely necessary? It's just something that Australia embraces. American, I'm always a bit envious of the American system. In a sense, because like I watch the American movies and be like, "There's a uniform. Where is it?" And it's like, oh, they don't have one. They just express themselves how they want to. I was a little bit envious of that. Yeah. Alright, I'm getting exhausted here a little bit. Yeah. And today's date is the March 18, 2024. I'm going to stop recording now. Okay, I'll just. That's right. I got pulled over the corridor one lunchtime at school by two of the metalheads. I had my canvas bag and used to write all over it. I wrote Metallica, Slayer, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, Anthrax, AC/DC. I had it written because that's your flag. We become a metalhead. And they pulled me over and said, "What's this? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh." They said, "Are you trying to live in the fast lane?" On Dio, I had Dio written on my bag as well, and Aussie. And they said, "What are you trying to do? What are you doing? Look at this kid, look at him, he's trying to live in the fast lane." And fast lane, you ought to see my 30s for that. Yeah. And they were like, "What are you trying to do? What are you doing? Why have you got this stuff written on your bag? Who?" And they laughed at me and mocked me, and they didn't embrace me. They didn't get invited to join their group. They're just like, they'd sort of be like, "Huh, look, he's trying to get into it. He's trying to get into Priest, trying to get into Dio, trying to get into Aussie." I wasn't trying. I was discovering it, actually. This kid was, so I would get weirdly hassled for it. They didn't say, "Hey, Pat, come on, you're a part of us now." No, they'd say, "Look, well, he's trying to live in..." Anyway. Hey, I thought of some more things. I thought of some more things. Right now, the metalheads that I received hassle from were, in fact, a year above me. I think they were in the next form above me. They were older than me by about 2 years. And I think I used to kind of provoke them in a way. I mean, geez, I say all the trouble I had there, but when I was fascinated by someone back in those days, I think still like the same. They'd be there because one of the corridors, because these two metalhead guys would also, all the sort of the people who weren't sports orientated at all, who were in a different culture there, wandered the school corridors, and they all hung out in the library. And all the ruffians, if you want to call them that, they're out in the sports oval and outside, okay? And there was these two metalhead guys. I think one was an Italian guy, the other one was a Greek guy, both being Greek. Now, they were in a higher form than I was, and there was two of them, and they never wore uniform. They always wore their tight black jeans, and I was fascinated by them. I was absolutely fascinated by them. So, so I would just look at them and kind of stare at them, and I think that kind of provoked them, because they'd be, stop doing that. And I'd look at them. I think I kind of provoked them a little bit, and so they'd end up coming after me. These two metalhead guys. One had curly hair, blonde curly hair, and then it was down to here. And the other guy, he had black hair. He always wore a Dio t-shirt. And they cornered me once and saw that I had AC/DC and Aussie and Dio written on my school bag. I had a canvas bag, but I also had another bag, and I had Metallica written on it. And they said, "Look at this guy, look at this guy." And they said, "What are you doing? Why are you listening to this? Look, this guy's trying to live in the fast lane." I know I've already said this. This guy's trying to live in the fast lane. And, oh, my light's not on. So this guy's trying to live in the fast lane. And I think they kind of beat me up that day. So I got beaten up by it instead. Well, I think I provoked them by staring at them, because I was fascinated and curious by them. You two guys, if you see this video, if you're watching now, let's have a beer or something. I'm saying I hold no ill. I've got no sort of angry feelings toward you. I probably stared you out a lot, I think, because when I'm fascinated by someone, I'll look at them. And so I've got no ill will toward you. Actually kind of wondering how you are these days. And I didn't really appreciate being beat up by you. I would have preferred that you embraced me, but I think probably my approach to you at the time was staring at you a lot, and that probably didn't help things. So if you're watching this video, hey, let's have a beer or something. I mean, are you still in Sydney? Are you living somewhere else in the world? It's probably highly unlikely you'll see this video, but that's what they used to do. These two guys, and they all. There was a couple of metalheads. The metalheads in my form, I kind of got along with them. It was interestingly enough, the metalheads, the Lebs, I think the Lebs were completely threatened in every way by heavy metal. They didn't know what to make of it, and so the metalheads in high school at Canterbury, they got completely left alone. To my observations, and I observed a lot, and they got completely, they were completely left alone. In regard to my grades, that would not be a pleasant occasion with my dad. My terrible grades. So I'd take my report card home. I knew it would be doomsday. Mum would say, "Dad's not going to be very happy." Dad would get home, hit the roof. He'd threaten me and do all sorts of things, and he'd say, "Right, can I get you into a boarding school? Can I get you into the army? Can I get you into the navy? It'll sort you out." And then he'd say, "No more TV, no more movies, schoolwork all the time, extra classes. I'm going up to school to complain. I'm going to talk to every teacher up there," which he never did. It was just all hot air. It was all fun. But what didn't help was that I was getting into heavy metal at that time, and he was very embarrassed by that. He didn't understand it. It was a huge thing that he did not understand. My mum didn't understand it either, but my dad was embarrassed, furious, annoyed about the heavy metal, which he didn't call it heavy metal because, I mean, there was that concept back then, but at the time he didn't know what it was. He just knew that he really did not like it. And so he'd bring my report cards home, and my dad has never been into heavy metal, never tried. He's just not from that era. He's a baby boomer. He was in the Air Force in the 50s, 60s, learning stuff and all that, and sort of partially army orientated, and partially, he was never in the army, but he's partially army orientated, and he wanted me to go that same track, and was really, I think, just really annoyed, pissed off, and confused when I did not take that path. There was a lot of abuse at home. I received a lot of abuse at home from Dad. A lot. Not good. And so when he said all this, he said, "Right, no more TV," and he would get onto my mum about it. He said, "What's he doing when he gets home? Are you making him doing his homework?" He said he doesn't like school. Mum would say to me, "I didn't like school either." Her words, when she read my report card, she'd say this: "I didn't like school either." That's it. And she said, "Look, he does his homework," and my dad said, "That's not good enough. He's going to a boarding school." How long would that last? How long would that carry on for? About 48 hours. And then I'd go back to normal, but like for about 2 days I wouldn't watch TV or movies for about 2 days, and then after that I just would carry on with Gilligan's Island and all my other favourite TV shows, and that. I would carry on with that. Okay, mildly partial, like mildly. When I got out of high school, Dad never adjusted to the heavy metal, never did. But what happened was, when I got out of high school, went on the dole for a couple of months. We're talking 1990. He went on the dole for a couple of months. Kind of got bored of that because I had all this energy and I wanted to work. And got a job, not in the army. It was never a thing to me. Dad, and look, just trying to be truthful here, Dad mildly tried to give me a bit of encouragement toward the army, mildly. I ended up in retail. I got a job in retail. As soon as I landed the job, because he wanted me to get a job. As soon as I landed the job, it was fine. I had a job. Yeah, I had a job when I got a job. Yeah, I just wanted, in the Air Force, my dad learned how to be an electrician, refrigeration mechanic. He learned how to cook. The Air Force taught him how to cook, and he's very, very good. And he was in Maryland. His dad was in Maryland, and said, as he said, partially army oriented. He admires those guys. Dad would never have had the discipline for the army. He had discipline for the Air Force, but he wouldn't have had discipline for the army. He just wouldn't have had. He went to the Air Force to learn a trade. I needed to say that. Okay, and as follows. Actually, this was recorded all a few days ago. Today's date is about the 24th of March 2024. Okay, so as follows. Okay, in fact, what I did do, left high school, went on the dole for a bit, went down to Bogey's Video every day and rented movies. That's what I did for months on end. And in fact, in half of that time, Michael Osman, would come down with me, and we go back to my place and watch movies. And that's what I did. So we just watched a ton of movies. Watch movies, listen to music. GNR live at the Ritz, Guns N' Roses live at the Ritz, which I've VHS tape from recorded off MTV with Richard Wilkins, the classic, the golden era. Oh, that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to take this piece, one of these pieces. Do you know what? I'll put it on a different thing piece. Very important. What was I going to say? That look. Yeah. So all those threats, that's it. No more TV, no more movies. That's it. As I said, that lasted for about 2 days, and then back to what I was. My dad would get pissed off for about 2 or 3 days, and then that was the end of it. And it was truly the end of it. And I used to always watch the. Whenever I watched the Sunday night at the movies, I always thought, this is my education. Like, I was so enamoured by it. I was like, this is it. I'm learning more here than I'll do at school. And if I never have to go back to Canterbury again, it might be a moment too soon. And like top 40 video hits come on the TV of a Sunday, right, and of a Saturday, and I'd been somewhere before I was old enough to go out. I watched Rage. Watch Rage, and I would attempt to watch that most of the night before Mum would come out and say, "What are you doing up so late? Get to bed." So that was my thing, which I got so much. That's where it was my everything. That's where I got all my things from. And I found it very depressing to go back to school. But going back to Canterbury when I went back to Canterbury, I found it very, very depressing. Okay, to express this point more clearly. So after the weekend, after the weekend, I have to get back to school. Now, if at some point during those days there had been some sort of thing in government happened, or some sort of news announcement saying all the kids who are in Canterbury Boys don't have to go back to school after the weekend. You don't have to go. It's not mandatory to go. But yeah, no. I'd have the weekend where I'd have my movies and my TV, get my American movies, my American movies, and then on Monday morning back to school, doomsday. That's what it was, doomsday. I wanted to elaborate on that a bit more. Okay. Just being in a classroom and not belonging there, whole language class. We had a few relief teachers, one left crying. I had a language class and one of the teachers called in sick one day, and we had a relief teacher and she was trying to show us T.S. Eliot, and unfortunately the Lebs in the class, it was always the Lebs, correct, that's right. We had Italians, Greeks, Macedonians, Yugoslavians, a couple of Asians, a couple of Turkish people, a few Aussies, and the rest were Lebs. And the Lebs caused all the trouble, full stop, with Abdul leading the way. And what happened one day, relief teacher came in and she was talking to us about T.S. Eliot. She was about 65 years of age. Really nice lady. I thought she was interesting. I thought T.S. Eliot was interesting. Unfortunately, the rest of the class did not think that was interesting. And so they started making comments, and at first she was letting them go. Then she stopped and said, she said, excuse me, I'm trying to talk to you here. I'm trying to teach you about things. And there was more and more comments made to the point where she got very frustrated. She started yelling. Everyone started laughing. I wasn't laughing. And then she left crying. And then we all got reprimanded for that, heavily reprimanded. And it's always the worst time doing that is when the relief teacher leaves the class and I potentially get attacked. I didn't get attacked that day, but potentially that the weaker kids in the class get, because there's no teacher in the class, so it's like not great. Just remember that. But all the relief teachers that came in did not like it. So I mean, you had some of them leaving halfway through the day saying, "I'm done with this. Your kids here are out of tune." Always the Lebs. Always the Lebs. The library one year when school photographs were being taken, there was a professional photographer in the library. It's in the old library. They had a brand new library. Brand new library opened up in about 1989, because I spent a year hanging out. And that's what I remember also. But the photographer, the professional photographer, taking the yearly photos. And of course, Abdul would start up with his mates, and at first I don't think the photographer noticed, but Abdul kept up with him. He's like, I'm a Leb. And the photographer said, good for you, mate. Now just hold still and smile. But Abdul kept on going on about it. And he says, I'm a Leb, and I'll beat you up. And he's like, the photographer's like, excuse me? He's like, what? And he said, I'll fight you. He's like, oh, fuck off, mate. I don't think he's told him to fuck off. He's like, give me a break. He's like, pfft. Anyway, and he got reprimanded in front of the photographers there because the teachers were there. I was told later that Abdul didn't return to Year 12. He didn't go back. He got asked to leave. He got expelled. I was going to get onto some very, very important subject, and I hope I haven't lost my way in that. Now what would happen is that I would hang out with the intellectuals. So at lunchtime in the library, I would hang out with the intellectuals, and some of them, what the guys who are in the much higher classes, I got along with them better than people that I had the same form, but the people that I was in class with, I had no connection with. So pretty much all dyslexic. They couldn't read or write very well. I also had no trouble with that. I didn't realise that until a couple of years ago that I was, what do you call that? What's the A word? A word. Autism, dyslexic. I have a form of it. I didn't realise. And I'm not going to tell me if I'm not recording all this, I'm just going to blow a horn. Now, I would go to the library and hang out with the intellectuals, and some of them would let me read their textbooks and the work that they were doing, and I would say, I can do this work, and they said, just ask for a transfer. I did that, but fell on deaf ears, really deaf ears. The teacher was looking at me like, and I read the 2-unit maths textbook, and I could actually do it. I would actually do a couple of pages of it during my lunch. Year 10 and 11, I would be up in the library with the other kids who were doing 4-unit maths, who were doing 3-unit maths, 4-unit maths, 4-unit science, 4-unit English, and it was easier than the 2-unit general English that I was stuck in, the maths and society that I was stuck in. and I even went to the teachers. I can do this work. I can do it. And they said, good for you. Get lost. Pass an exam, or put you in the class. I never passed the exam. So I would spend my time hanging out with the, I don't know, nerds, intellectuals. So nerds is not the best word. I got along with them more. A couple of them disliked me, like Castor McKay did not like me. A few of them did not. Darren Barnwell, Jeremy Kerr, I said Luigi D'Alessandro before, Tony Manthos, I think he came to Dulwich Hill. Nick Marrick, he came to Dulwich Hill. Nick Marrick and Tony Manthos, they were at Dulwich Hill with me. Peter May, I had a weird friendship with Peter May. Really weird, just really weird friendship. He was a loner intellectual. I did have a friendship with him, but it was a weird friendship. I haven't seen him for many, many years. Last time I saw him was the late 90s, and I think it might have been a bit aggressive toward him. I'm not too sure, but we had a disconnection. I said Luigi D'Alessandro. Oh, Spiros. Spiros is a smart ass. I bumped into him on my street. He always used to get in trouble with the lebs. Spiros, big smart ass. I don't know if he's still one now. Crossed hit. I just remembered another bloke. There was two Roger Borgs. One of them was a huge troublemaker. Aussie guy. Huge troublemaker. There's no troublemaker, just trouble learning. They had trouble learning back then. Some people aren't meant to be in school. What was this? Far out, was this? I was on a track with something. Tony Manthos and they weren't doing, yeah, but they didn't do well in school because it just wasn't the atmosphere for them, right? And so I would Spiros, yeah, Spiros. I saw him about 3 years after high school had finished, and he was in my street, and he was being a bit of a smart ass to me, and I think I sort of challenged him on that a bit. And he's like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "Get out of my face!" I stood up to him and said, "Get out of my face!" And I couldn't believe he had the same attitude. I couldn't believe he hadn't adjusted his attitude. Going to Canterbury in the 1980's, come out of there with a bit of attitude, mate, because he had to survive. And the guys who were the heavy metal guy who was really good to me, unfortunately, I don't remember his name. Just Norman Kiproff keeps coming into my mind. He was partially into heavy metal, I think, partially into it. Richard Jamore, Frank Zanti. Frank became practically my best friend out of high school. I couldn't get in touch with him. Anyway, Frank and I tried to, anyway. I mean, look, we went to Mr. Collock's house. Me and Richie went to Mr. Collock's house. I don't remember if we were still in school at the time or out of school. He used to do all these science things. Cool guy, really cool guy, probably one of the coolest teachers in the school. And he was about 35 at the time. And attempting to remember everyone's name. There was Miss Fleming, who was making out with the Year 12. Miss Fleming, Miss Parker, who used to dress extremely provocatively. And she'd hold the chemistry tab and say, chemistry is so stimulating. And Miss Parker, and he had the art teacher, Canterbury Boys. That was an error. And the deputy was the cowboy, and the principal was a gentle guy. Because the deputy principal called all the shots. He called all the shots. All of them. I remember being hung off a balcony by 1 foot by Alex Glenn, and Michael Mussolini rescued me and said, "Fuck, look, you got me involved in now." Yeah. And Darren Barnwell, I've said Darren Barnwell. One eye open, one eye shut. Patient number 9. And you used to, Wednesday's PE day. Half the form would turn up with a note from their parents saying they didn't have to do PE, didn't have to do sport, because we went to 10-pin bowling at Bankstown to do sport. I chose 10-pin bowling. At first I chose ice skating, but ice skating was a 10-minute walk from my house. But bloody hell, the group that went there, I got hassled. They had it in for me. I didn't do anything to them. And I used to get a kind of bit beat up at ice skating, so I got out of that. I went to 10-pin bowling because Richie was doing 10-pin bowling, and that's where Richie discovered the Metallica 1 clip and got he became a metalhead. He saw the Metallica 1 clip, said, "What's that?" And I said, "It's Metallica 1, it's in this single of Injustice." And he was like, "Right." And then that's it, he became a metalhead. Richie became a metalhead. And also I brought him Raining Blood to him. I gave him where are my things? I gave him Raining Blood. I brought Raining Blood into school on TDK tape. I got a lightning bolt thing that happens in my neck regularly. Rain Blood, TDK cassette tape. He took it home, came back the next day, he said, "Devil's music," and he tossed it in the school basement. And you have the desks, and you have the sink, because I said basin, I said some weird thing. I think I meant basin, but it sounded like basement. Anyway, you've got the desk, the big desk, you've got the sink, and you've got the tap. Well, Richie threw it into the sink. And I just wanted to say that. And then a day later, he said, I still had it in my bag, and he said, "Can I borrow that again? I just want to have one more listen." He had another listen. He was like, "Oh, I love it. He said, "I love it. So Richie heard 10-pin bowling at Bankstown and became a metalhead. And then he would get the albums, he'd work out all the lyrics to them. I think Injustice came with lyrics, but nonetheless. And also Richie, a big Def Leppard fan, he loved Hysteria and collected all the singles. I had a little bit to do with Richie in school. Richie became one of my best friends over the years. Helped me out with a lot of things. Richie, yep. Michael Terrax. And big Def Leppard fan. Collected all the singles off the Hysteria album. And it worked out to that, to the Hysteria. We got hysteria. We got hysteria. I know I could have been a front man. We got hysteria. You should watch that beat. Yeah. We got hysteria. My front man singing potential was pretty darn not good at everything. Not all of us are good at everything. And all the metal kids that would wander the corridors of the day with their Iron Maiden t-shirts, it was Appetite, Theatre of Pain, Wasp, Motorhead. There's a guy that always wore a Motorhead t-shirt. I can't remember his name. And I said, "What's Motorhead?" I said to him, "What's Motorhead?" And he said, "Motorhead." That's it. He said, I couldn't work out what it was. They didn't help me. I had no help at all. I had to figure it out for myself. A lot of AC/DC t-shirts, a lot of Iron Maiden Peace of Mind t-shirts, a lot of AC/DC, Iron Maiden, anything else that I saw there? maybe an Aussie t-shirt at the time, no Black Sabbath t-shirts, there wasn't no Led Zeppelin t-shirts, just those, and Poison, and it was Marcello Rizzuti who was wearing the Poison. He had big hair at the time, and Vladi Strathopoulos, oh, I probably I mean, 40, 30 years ago, come on. Frank, well, it's a sore spot for Frank. I won't stay on it, because he hung out with Marcello and Rizzuti, and they just didn't do the right thing by him. Marcello, Vladi, and Marcello, they didn't do the right thing by him. So, but every day, Marcello would wear a Poison t-shirt to school, and Vladi would wear something similar, and there was about 10 metalheads in our form, about 10 of them. Carlos Esteves, I see him sometimes out there at Canterbury. Bump into him sometimes. We have a bit of a reminisce. Carlos Esteves, doing well for himself. He was okay. I watched today's date is the 19th of March 2024, and it's about 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon. I did watch that footage back. A little bit of trauma. This is supposed to be, I think, meant as a cleansing for me. I don't want to stay on it for too long, but there's something there to be cleansed, right? I was talking to Carlos Esteves, and at the time he was one of the weaker, sort of more passive kids as I was, and he would hang out in the school library. Geez, if I had been in this, if I had went to a different school, would have I been any different? I think I would have. Okay, if I had went to a school where it was all Aussies, like Cronulla or Woolaware, would have it been different for me? Potentially, yes. I would have had a bigger personality in school. When I was at hardcore, my personality was different. I was more bubbly. I was more outspoken. It was just hardcore public. It was just a very different atmosphere. And there's one guy who would have got into a lot of trouble at Canterbury, Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy was an Aussie guy, English background. He didn't go to Canterbury. My goodness, if he had gone to Canterbury, he wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. He just would have got into too many fights. I just know that for a fact. He went to Belmore. There was actually, I think there was a few, there might have been a few people that I knew that started at Canterbury, but they didn't stay very long. Canterbury was a shit. And I've no idea what it's like now. I mean, at school hour, we see, because if I'm going down to get groceries at school hour, like today, we were driving back today from Cockburn, we went down to Dolls Point, we drove back through Canterbury, and all the school kids were out, because we hit school hour, we got back on school hour, and all the boys and all the girls, there was hundreds of them, in their school uniforms, you see them, and, it'd be a different school these days, and there wouldn't be anyone left there from the 80s and that era. But what have I done differently in it? Well, by the time I got to Dulwich Hill, I was a bit over it. Like, I had no hassles at all there that year, none. There was a lot of freedom there, but I was a bit over it by that point. Do I have it? Okay, so Year 12. Did I learn anything in Year 12? No. I got a bit of stimulation out of it. I took art class, got a bit of stimulation out of that. Geography, I thought the teacher was quite interesting. He used to talk about movies, actually, sometimes. And, you know, our idea of geography was looking at maps of the world, but we discussed resources and, like, I just thought the whole year'd be looking at maps of the world. I love looking at maps, and instead it was how many resources because we studied Tokyo. We studied Tokyo in Year 12. And, we had the senior geography project. I failed. I think we had it in Year 11, failed. I failed miserably. I did it the night before, and I think there's some other guy got 100%. One guy just did solid 3 months work on it. Did I tell me I pressed record? Bloody hell, I pressed record. Blow the horn. Yabba dabba doo. It's good, man. Feel the natural world. Geography was, the teacher wanted to talk about Tokyo and about what resources and how people live in Tokyo and percentages and things, like what percentage of people use the most water and how is electricity used in Tokyo, and you know, different things like that, which really, oh my, no, and no. English, no. Well, every class was good. There was no hassle in every class. My least favourite class was physics. Why the fuck did I pick physics again? Was I out of my fucking mind? And my least favourite class was physics. Couldn't stand it. What was my favourite class? I didn't have any, but geography actually wasn't, because a good teacher. I have to understand this was a totally different atmosphere. I mean, there was Greeks there, there was Italians there, there were some Lebanese people there, but they weren't the same as the ones at Canterbury. It was a different league. It was a different league, and probably the girls set a nice balance in the class, because there was girls. It was nice to have girls. It was nice to have girls around, but I hadn't been around them for 5 years, so it was a bit. Gone from Harcourt Public, which was co-ed, Canterbury Boys, which was, and then suddenly Dulwich High co-ed, and how would I? The atmosphere was similar to Harcourt, I suppose. Probably similar to Harcourt in a sense. Any favourite subjects that year? No, I didn't particularly enjoy math. I didn't enjoy physics. I had a bit of stimulation from art. Art class was okay for me. Geography, the teacher was interesting in geography. And I actually probably took a couple of other subjects, and I have no idea what they were. But it was really that interesting. I think I just counted down the days. Didn't really make that many friends in Dulwich Hill. I just did my HSC and got out of there. There weren't any hassles. I just did my HSC and pissed off. I got out of there. I attempted to make contact with some people. I attempted to hang out with some people after high school there on a couple of occasions. We didn't connect. And then I reconnected with Frank and Richie, because they were down at Campsie. Frank and Richie were down at Campsie Library. I reconnected, so I reconnected with, I connected with Frank, and I went to start going to gigs. But, would I have done if I had been at a different high school, well, predominantly Aussie, I think I probably would have had a much bigger personality at that time. I think the changes to my personality came when I joined Shopfront Theatre, because it was like, there was no holds barred. There was just every Sunday for 3 hours, and but also, like, I would watch Great Mysteries of the World. The Star Trek guy, Great Mysteries of the World, and I was like, oh, that's it. I would learn from that. Like, seriously, if I just watch TV all day, really seriously, just watch TV all day, and watch documentaries on Channel 2. David Attenborough was better than anything I learned at high school. Jesus, what a sailor century. The Brady Bunch, I had a crush on Cindy, who didn't. Or was it Marsha, who didn't? And the Brady Bunch, the Partridge Family. I used to watch Partridge Family. And happy days, and on the buses, and yeah, that was high school. Walk the corridors, listening to the teacher, really not taking anything in. All they used to write on the chalkboard. When 3:15 came and the bell sounded, I couldn't get out of there fast enough. At one point near 11, bell rang. I just got up from my seat, and the teacher was like, "Well, where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm fucking out of here." I actually said, "I'm not going to do that. Watch it, watch yourself." And I'm like, I every time the bell rang, that's right, I would run out of class. School was finished for the day. Gone, gone out of there. Home, TV, ice cream, TV. You got that right. That's Canterbury included, really. Canterbury included. Miss Holland, Mr. Lynch, who was a pedo, Mr. Clark. I think Miss Garofano. Miss Garofano was from Canterbury. Miss Bartos was my Year 6 teacher at public school. Garofano, I liked Miss Garofano. She was good. Mrs. Holland was a ball buster breaker, but she did help Richie get she had a hand in helping Richie get published after high school. Mr. Day, who failed me in Year 10, and the art teacher, she was a hottie. I think it was Miss Paris. I got mixed up. Miss Paris, not Miss Parker. Miss Paris. Mrs. Gritter, she really put me off. She was a maths teacher. She failed me all the time. Miss Gritter. And not being dramatic. Now, yes. My art teacher, there was Miss Fleming. Didn't really have much to do. She was a bit of a, she was a sexual woman, very sexual woman. Miss Fleming, boy, she was, as I said, very flirtatious. And she went with a Year 12 student at the time. And this would have been somewhere around 1988, maybe 1987, 1988. They were pretty discreet. It's the 1980s. I don't know how many people really cared about it, and everyone just sort of, we the students knew, was what it was. But there was one particular woman in the arts department or something. I used to ask her for this. I used to like the Oriental Chinese drawings. I used to colour them in. I used to like to do that. Anyway, none of the subjects I didn't benefit from any of the subjects at all, ever. I just didn't. And Sal's Entry, Great Mysteries of the World, and everything that was valuable to me was on TV. Yes. And then VHS, when VHS came out. Well, VHS was around, but Bogus Video, yes. Bogus Video. Bogus Video, yes, indeed. Okay, conclude now. Concluded. I'll conclude now. Concluded now. I just remember we were talking about something else. We were talking about something else as well. Concluded. Okay. Yes. Concluded. I'm a bit exhausted. Okay, so I've been thinking about a few things, and okay, so you had Mr. Bolton and you had Mr. Acton. Mr. Bolton was a math teacher. He had a particular character about him. Mr. Bolton, Mr. Acton, Mrs. Sheridan. Think about Mr. Bolton was a bit like this. No, I'm not making fun of him or anything. That's who his character. That's how he was. Mr. Bolton was a bit like this. We're Mr. Acton's class. I can tell you exactly where it was. The middle entrance of Canterbury Boys. You walk in, and there's that entrance just then. You walk up the stairs, and you go right, and there was a deputy principal's office. And you walk further that way, and there was the admin part. All white, not brick, just all white, not hard stone, just all white. Anyway, okay, the walls weren't white, they weren't off-white. It was like stone plaster, a little bit difficult for me to describe them, although probably easy for most people. They weren't white, they were off-white, almost cream colour, so they weren't white like a psych ward, but Canterbury Boys might as well have been a psych ward back in those days. And if it hasn't changed much now, probably still the same, but no, they were an off-white sort of cream colour in the main corridor next to the deputy principal. And I googled it. I actually googled it. I was going to talk about this. But you come up those stairs from the outside, come up those stairs, come up onto the ground floor, first floor level. If you go left and then you take an immediate right, and you go up those stairs, and you come onto that second level, because the quadrangle level was, there's two quadrangles at Canterbury Boys. We got all the physics and science labs. There's a small quadrangle, but the larger quadrangle is over that way. And so pretty much in middle school you had the maths class, right? I get a bit of trauma from this. Now, Mr. Acton's class. Mr. Acton spoke like this. The way that he spoke was a bit like this. And Mr. Bolton. And you know what? Looking back now, I had a bit of interaction with him. Looking back now, he was. I suppose that he was an interesting character. Sort of a bit sophisticated, I suppose. A bit sophisticated. And yeah, nice enough guy. And he, I don't think that I had Mr. Bolton for any classes, but that was Miss Bolton. And yeah, one of the teachers there, she used to always wear long flowing dresses. It could have been Mrs. Sheridan. Always used to wear long flowing dresses. The thing about Canterbury, there's so many entrances there. So if you didn't want to hang out anywhere, you could just wander the corridors and all that. And I remember a fan from the library, Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was a bit of a pedo. I realised that he's passed now because he was about 65 years of age. And in the library, he'd turn the pages of books and show me a half-nude guy and say, "Is that what you do?" And at the time, I just didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't know. I was like, I closed the book. I walked away from him. I think I had some choice words with him myself, but he said, "Go away, Patrick. Go away." Mr. Henderson, bald guy, hair on the sides, and he was about this high, had a beard, ginger beard. Mr. Henderson, bit of a pedo. I didn't really sort of understand that too much at the time, but I had various comments. I was extremely cheeky to him, really cheeky to him, and used to challenge him a bit, and he didn't like that. And then one day I managed to push it too far. He said, I was being a bit weird with him, and I was just being very. I used to sort of just say things to him, and he said, "Right, Patrick, I've had enough of this. You're banned." and he bans me. And that wasn't where the new library is. There's a new library that was put in around about 1989. Because in 1988 you still had the old library, which was in a smaller quadrant. The smaller quadrangle was where the canteen boys took. I was about to say boys and girls. So I tell you what, if you had girls in there, would have helped the boys and girls together. I think it's very necessary. You should never ever separate the boys from the girls. You just shouldn't. Okay, it's not healthy, and you get much better balance. Because in boys' school, there's way too much testosterone. Anyway, I would have the boys' school because they consider the girls a distraction. I don't think so. Anyway, so canteen, boys' toilets, quadrangle. You had these concrete steps, about big steps too. Probably still there. Oh, that's right. Yeah, and the nice sun comes. The sun comes down. It's nice. Just to sit there in the sun. It's nice. What was I saying? Saying about Mr. Henderson. Oh, the library was on the first floor there because you had the language classes. That's where all the language classes was. All the art classes and then the science labs. Okay, and you've missed. So he banned me. He straight out. He said, "Patrick, piss off." He said, "Just fuck off." I think he said fuck off. He said, "Patrick, piss off. Go away, Patrick, go away." Because it was always in his face, and his assistant was quite. I think she liked me in the sense of I got along with her. I used to give him so much crap because he was weird. He was really weird with a lot of the boys, and I used to give him a lot of crap and challenge him, and he banned me. So what happened when I got banned? Well, I ended up wandering the corridors. I wandered the corridors almost helplessly, and I tried to get back on him a few times, like, Patrick, I told you, you're banned. Go away. And I pleaded to get back in, and he's like, Patrick, go away, go away. And so when the new library opened, I got back in, but I think he pulled me aside. He said, "Patrick, I fully expect you to behave yourself in here. Any disruptions from you, and you're out." And that must have been year 11. That would have been my final year there, year 11. We had the brand new library. He has now. He'd been out with Mr. Henderson and would now be passed. He was a bit of a pedo, as was Mr. Lynch. Well, as was Mr. Lynch, of things I had heard through the grapevine since leaving, and just things that I have come to my attention through first-hand source. Tell you what, who took seriously was the deputy principal. I can't remember his name. And the principal's name goes. Principal's name, Mr. I googled it, and the principal at the time was Carrington, a soft guy. Mr. Carrington. Don't know what the deputy principal was. The cowboy. He ruled with an iron fist. Tough, big. He ruled with an iron fist. The principal was a softie, and the deputy principal was a tough bastard. He ran the show. He called the shots. He ran the show. He called the shots. That's it. And the tough kids at Canterbury. But when he faced them, they would crumble. They'd be like very meek. And his iron rod. Yes. So Henderson pulled me aside upon entrance to the brand new library. Had a few words with me. Said, "Behave yourself, or we'll kick you out of here permanently." And so I went there. I went there every almost if I wasn't in the library every lunchtime, I'd just wander the halls, wander the corridors, wander the corridors. I wanted to say something about those other guys. Those metal guys. I wonder if the kids at Canterbury now walk around, the metalheads there walk around as metalheads. I wonder if they do that now. I don't know. They probably. Oh look, the generation now, I don't think they know anything about it. I don't think they get introduced to it because the parents want all the kids to be A plus A graders. So, you know, I don't think that heavy metal is introduced to too many households with kids these days. And we're talking about the glory, and they were the glory days of the 1980s. It was a very extremely rough time for me, but it was a magical era. Okay, so it wasn't. It wasn't a magical era. It was a magical era. Was a magical era for me, partly so when I discovered heavy metal. Musically orientated wise, and watching movies. It wasn't that part of the 1980s wasn't a magical era. It was quite difficult, but the music that I was discovering was the music I was discovering, the movies I was watching, they were. But that time in the 80s, no, it wasn't magical. It just was what it was. We didn't think of anything as nostalgic back then because we were living in it. So it wasn't. And the 80s didn't become nostalgic until 2015. All that shit music that was coming out in 2015, and now everyone just went back to the 80s, the best era of music, in the 90s. But when we were living in the 80s, we didn't consider it as classic. We were just living. It didn't come about. Anyway, I digress greatly. Suddenly in 2018 on the radio, the classic to the 80s, I'm like, oh wow, it's more classic now. So yeah, that's how that came to be. And I get home, toss my bag in the corner very quickly. I didn't toss my bag in the corner. I had a TV set in my room because my mum's dad bought a TV years before that, and it ended up in my room, and my parents had a larger TV in the lounge room. But so I used to go home from school, and I didn't toss my bag. I placed it under the TV. I actually placed it under, because it had the old-fashioned TV stand. So I didn't toss my bag in the corner. Anyway, yeah, as I said, my TV, my actual education. And I was going to say anything about those. Oh, James Glash, yes. I was starting to occasionally cross paths with him in the Zeros in Newtown, going into the Zeros, and then I think somewhere saw him somewhere around 2006 in Newtown. Bump into him occasionally and have a bit of a chat. In fact, he lives just down the road from me now, James Clash does, and I bump into him about once every 4 weeks to 6 weeks. We have ourselves about a 5 or 10 minute chat. He's doing well. And also, very late last night, I was going to upload this last night. I was about to upload, but I didn't. And there was a couple of other names. There's a guy called Gary Mellons, and he pushed Richie into the corner of a brick wall or something. What I'm trying to say is whether it was accident or not an accident. According to Gary Mellons, I think it was an accident. Anyway, it damaged Richie's kidney or his liver, something. Anyway, Richie took about 4 months out of. He took 4 months out of school. Continued with his work, but he had to have 4 months off school. Could have been 5 months off school. I could be incorrect about that. I don't know the exact time, but Richie was not at school for a while. Yes. And yeah. in 4-unit science, I think I actually might have been okay in 4-unit science, but because I did 2 classes, and the teacher, oh gosh, the teacher got so frustrated with me. Because I decided to go to 4-unit science, and the next day I tried chemistry and physics, and he said, Pat, I'm getting kind of sick of this. Choose a class, stay there, commit to a class. And I didn't want to be in chemistry, the bullies were there. I didn't want to be necessarily in physics, the bullies were there. I was trying to get away from the bullies, and because that's what I was going to say. This point first. Was that 4-unit science I actually kind of found interesting, and I remember whoever it wasn't Mr. Day, it was somebody else, I can't remember his last name. He got the rubber and he banged it on the chalkboard, and all this, the chalk stuff came off. He said that's called Brownian motion. Alright, one thing I learned, Brownian motion. And I had to buy these experiment books, like from the news agency, buy these experiment books which perform science experiments in, and I actually thought that the pages were attractive, but as soon as I put the pen to the paper, I was like, oh, I'm just spoiled it. As soon as I started writing on the experiment pages, like, oh, okay, that was pretty. And so 4-unit science, I found it to be interesting. I was with the intellectuals, so that's another thing. All the intellectuals, all the A+ students, it was a different world, a different dimension. Because they didn't get bored in any sense. All the A+ and B, all the A+ and A students were in totally different classes, and I could do their work. I was stuck in the lower denominator with all the dyslexic kids and autism kids, which meant that's where all the bullies were. And it was a really, really bad time, crap time. It was a terrible time. Pretty much looking over my shoulder every 5 minutes, and it was just an unpleasant experience. And and all the A students, they would have a different experience to me. They didn't get confronted. They had all their classes, no bullies in their classes, and they spent all their time in the library. I was stuck in the lower classes, where all the troublemakers were. And that's what happened. So 4-unit science, I did 2 lessons, went back to physics. The irony is that the bullies, the kids who were disruptive, were actually taking physics. They actually took physics and were failing absolutely miserably in it. Because I thought, if I take physics, they won't be there. But they were there. But I didn't like chemistry. And they were in our class. What the fuck were they doing in our class? So I couldn't escape them. Okay. There's some really specific things that I remembered. Actually, I'm going to go first with this. There was a thing called, things got out of control in Year 10 and Year 11, and they set up a thing called the time-out desk, there was 2 things they set up, the time-out desk and the blue room. The time-out desk was for kids who were being very disruptive in class, and it got used often. So you had the classroom, and you had a time-out desk at the corner facing the wall, and of course the Lebanese kids would be there often. Anyone who was a disruption in class got the time-out desk for half an hour, and you had to sit there, not be involved in class, and that was it. And for the kids who were really misbehaving, you had the blue room. And if you get enough times in the blue room, you get suspended and expelled. And most of I think it was a fair few kids ended up in there, and a good portion of the Lebanese kids who got in trouble ended up in. It was after school. It was for an hour. And thinking back now, did it do any good? Well, I don't know. You're pretty much taking up the teacher's time who really wants to be at home. And I think, there was. I think the police were called in at one point because things got out of hand with it. Because I think that some of those kids ended up threatening the teachers. Everything's very vague now, but I just remembered the blue room for the kids who were really misbehaving. And I think what it did was that, the teacher who's staying behind for an hour after school, that chews into her, that takes up their time, that they get their time taken away from them. But it turned really bad. They had the blue room, and that was set up. Now, I spent a lot of time in sick bay. I disliked being in the classes that much that I was in sick bay at least half my time, maybe 40% of my time I spent in sick bay. And what I would do is I'd turn up every day to school, and the classes I knew was not that I was going to be bullied, hassled, just not have a good time, and I would go to the sick bay and say, I don't feel well. And they'd say, what's wrong with you? I'd say, I've got a headache. And they wouldn't question me too much, so I'd lay down and sleep. And then when that period bell rang, they'd say, are you alright? You're like, no, I'm not alright. I mean, they questioned me a little bit on it, but what were they going to do? And so I'd spend 2 periods in sick bay, and immediately they'd call Mum. Mum would come and get me. Mum would come to get me. And we'd get in the car. She'd say, you're alright? I'm like, I don't like school. I've got a headache. And she'd say, I didn't like it either. And she'd drive me home. And she'd get onto the phone to a friend and say, Patrick, I've just driven him. He's sick again at school. He doesn't like school. And sometimes I would plan it to my vague memory. I think what I would have done some days is do the first 3 periods, do recess, do the next 2, and at lunch say I'm sick. And by that point I actually remembered something that was taking place at Canterbury. I'd just maybe repressed it or forgotten about it all these years. I think I remember, I googled it last night, there's no such term, so I don't know if I'm going to say. What it was the kids in 1987 and 1988, I even think it started in 1986, you go up to another student, come up behind them, like, got a student there, the kid's there, and the kid with the back of the hand, hit the back of their head like that, really hard. Okay, I would like to emphasise that I never did that to anybody. I never did that to anybody, and I didn't think it was I did not do that to anybody. I thought it was a terrible thing to do. And this is actually it's 23rd of March. This is one of the last pieces of footage I'm including on this because I'm going to move on from it. I don't want to stay with this. I remembered too much. Yeah. Well, I'll split this up. I don't remember I know what they said, but I'm just the actual term. So, and I think I experienced trauma from this. I experienced it because I started getting here. The weaker kids, the more vulnerable kids, would get them, would receive them. So, and usually the Lebanese kids that were delivering them would come up behind you. Oh my gosh. I think I remember something else that was happening. They'd get their 2 hands, come up behind you and up the backside, like this, and then they come up behind you, and it was always the Lebanese kids that were doing it. They'd come up behind you and whack you as hard as they could on the back of the head, to the point where I started getting headaches. And I started spending a certain amount of time in sick bay, and Mum would come and get me. Got to the point where myself and one of my other classmates, whoever it was, went to Mr. Carrington's office. Went down to the Carrington's office. The deputy principal was in there. There was a few other people in there. I explained what was going on because I was having headaches, and I don't know if the police were called in. They may have been called in. The police were called in a lot to Canterbury Boys in those days. And what happened? They shut them down. There was a big assembly. A few kids got suspended. I don't know how many got expelled. Maybe a couple of them. But any teachers anybody that would witness this from now on, action was immediately taken on the spot. And so I think I just put it out of my mind over the years. So when I left Canterbury, I disconnected from it completely and put a lot of it out of my mind. It was just that last night, I was actually ready to upload this video last night, and I actually did upload it to YouTube, but I saved it only as a draft, and I wanted to come back and elaborate on one of the details, and then started remembering more. Look, Peter Ballifus, yes, I remember Peter Ballifus, very smart student, In fact, the last time I saw Peter Balfour was in 2020. He was, I saw him at, I saw him at Burwood Westfields. He was doing well. I bumped into Peter Balfour a couple of times over the years. Doing well. Very smart guy. He did well in school. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. Not going to be any more footage. One of the metalheads in school was really good to me. One of them was really good to me. But I'm finishing up on this video now. I wanted to add those details. Those are the things that took place at Canterbury, and you had the timeout desk. You had the blue room. Blue room. I was never in either. Ever. I was never in either. The real troublemakers spent a lot of time in them, and if you were in, I think that if you just couldn't behave yourself towards the end, they got expelled, and I don't know how many people got expelled. I think I even vaguely recall someone got expelled once, and their parents came up to school and wanted to fight the deputy or the principal or something like that, and then the police were involved. Something I never did. When we got our report cards, it does come down to this, and a few of the Aussies did it as well. All the kids that did really badly in their classes and their report cards, all of them would be literally outside the school afterwards, you know, a subtlety, and they'd have a pen and adjusting their marks. They would be adjusting their marks, and because I'm presuming that some of the parents couldn't read English, but they could at least see the number out of 100 that they got, and A, B, C, a D, they could, anyway. I never did it. I just never did it, but all the dyslexics, all the kids who failed would adjust their report cards before they went home. It happened all the time. I never did it. I just didn't. And what you get me though is that you adjust a mark, but then you adjust the mark and just say you adjusted with your A, B, you got A plus or B or C or D, E, whatever. Now, just say you've adjusted that to make it look good. But that's not going to match up with what the teacher has to say in their report. That went on a lot. It was a whole rigmarole. It was a whole big... Anyway, I wanted to make those points today. I came down here to make those points. And that's the Canterbury Tales, Canterbury Boys Tales. That's the... And then it's it now. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Got a computer room in year 11. There was a computer room. Got a computer room in year 11, and played pole position for the first time. Two of the kids who were in my computer class, a very small computer class, but two of the kids in a computer class had a computer. I think it was a Commodore 64. I had Texas Instruments. My dad refused to have Commodore 64 in the house, so there was two of us in school that had Texas Instruments. Michael Osmond had Texas Instruments, and I had Texas Instruments. Everyone else had Commodore 64. Are you keeping up with Commodore? Because we weren't. I wasn't. Anyway, a kid brought pole position in, so every computer class I played pole position. So that's Canterbury Boys in the mid-1980s. And would I have done any better in an all-Aussie high school, in a different high school like Kingsgrove North or some other high school? We're on record. Okay. Had a bit of a tough time with this. Keep remembering things. I absolutely have to move on from this. I don't know why I said Kingsgrove North. I meant Kingsgrove High School. It's on Stony Creek Road. It's on Stony Creek Road. I don't know why I mentioned Kingsgrove North for. I don't know why. And when I say all Aussie high school, I don't refer to myself. I don't like the term Aussie, and when I think of Aussie, I'm like, oh yeah. That's right. When I think of that, I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah. But if I had have went to an all Australian, all Aussie oriented, I would have done any different. That's what I meant. Geez, it was just that small group of troublemakers that changed everything, that completely disrupted me in my high school years. And I spoke to the kids in the other forms. And they said, nah, this is worse than yours. I'm like, no way. And they're like, yeah, of course. I'm like, because I actually made friends with kids in the higher forms and would see them out on the scene. And they'd say to me, and they'd say to me, Canterbury Boys, you're at Canterbury Boys. I'd say, oh, I said, I don't remember you in my grade. No, I was the next grade up. Because I used to talk to people who were in the next grade up. I used to, a few people who were in this club, I used to talk and associate with them. I am having trauma today. I gotta stop this now. I gotta stop this. I gotta stop this. Alright, I'm stopping this camera now. Okay. I probably would have done better. Would have I escaped trouble? I probably would have escaped trouble. But my personality would be very different if I had transferred in year 8 to another transferred in year 8. My life would be very different. Would I be a metalhead? Oh, probably, sadly, not. Maybe. Or I would have. Do you know what? I don't know. I mean, I would have discovered it. I would have. I would have. But the thing is, the heavy metal population at Canterbury Boys included about 20 students, and it was prominent within that. Always a minority, but it was there. And if I had went to another high school, would there have been kids walking around with Iron Maiden t-shirts and AC/DC t-shirts and Metallica t-shirts and Poison and Guns N' Roses? I don't know. Would I have a different personality now? Probably. Would my baseline personality be the same? Maybe, but I would have been influenced by different friends, really different friends and people, and would have been a different person. I would have been fully able to. I would have been getting better grades. It wouldn't be the person I am today if none of that had happened. So Canterbury. Oh, that's what I was going to say. When I left Canterbury, I disowned it, disconnected from it completely. And in the years following, when people would say, "What school did you come from?" I'd say, "Oh, Dulwich High." They'd say, "Really?" And they'd say, "Oh, yeah, Dulwich High." I did that for quite a while. Canterbury Boys did not exist to me. Did not exist to me for a number of years afterwards. And then Richie one day, Richard Jamal. He won't mind me saying that. I've decided he won't mind me saying that. Richard Jamal, A+ student. That's his last name. And he said. I said to him one day, "Oh, I'm a Dulwich High kid." He said, "No, you're not. You're Canterbury." I'm like, No, I did my HSC at Dulwich High. He's like, "Dude, you were with us at Canterbury for 5 years. You're a Canterbury kid." And I'm like, and at first I found that quite difficult to accept. I had trouble with that. But yeah, Canterbury Boys. I'm Canterbury Boys. I'm a Canterbury Boys kid. I'm a Canterbury Boys kid. And went there from 1985 through 1989 and did my HSC at Dulwich High. don't have a great deal of connection with Dulwich High. I've never seen anyone since leaving there. Who do I remember from there? Who do I remember from there? I did remember one guy's name. I always remember Raylene Galvin. Raylene Galvin had a big crush on. Her friends couldn't stand me. That's not, her friends couldn't stand me. And Irfan Duran, friends with him. There was the A crowd who I attempted to actually blend in with the A crowd and actually hung out with them after we finished high school on 2 occasions. It was a weird hangout. I did the activity just didn't connect with them. Couldn't connect with them. That's why I went back to Richie and Frank. And I didn't get back to Richie and Frank. I went to hang out at Camp's Library and Richie and Frank were there. Yeah, Canterbury Boys. And that's my high school. When people say, well, high school, did you go to Canterbury Boys? Canterbury Boys, I don't really mention Dulwich High. Not really. Did my HSC there. It's now an arts high school. It was very arty there. It's actually now an arts high school. Dulwich High is an art high school. Not surprised. When I went there, it was not. See, Canterbury Boys was trade orientated. Dulwich High was university. Canterbury Boys trade. Dulwich High. Oh, you want to go to university? Loosely prepping for university. Loosely, it's like art. It seemed very art oriented. When I went there, it did not seem trade orientated. It seemed very art orientated. Canterbury Boys straight down the line. Trade. That's it. I don't think it has changed very much since then. Probably hasn't. I don't know. And Canterbury Boys in 1988. Slayer t-shirts, Metallica t-shirts, AC/DC t-shirts, and that small metal community in there. And with all the forms too, all the forms with Dio t-shirts and all that, and Aussie t-shirts. But it wouldn't be like that. That was that era. That was that era. How I managed to survive 5 years of high school, I don't know. Frick, don't know. Don't know. It's like a dormitory, it's like an institution, it's like a dormitory there. It's very sort of, yeah. And the thing is, like Dulwich High was lit up compared, like Dulwich High had a lot of light, it was over. Canterbury was very closed in, very, very institution, very trade, very. It's the 25th of March 2024. This is the last piece of footage. I'm actually presently giving myself trauma about this, so I really don't want to be on this, but I really want this to be the last piece of footage, and I've also decided to go incognito with this, give it a slightly different title, Let Sleeping Dogs Lie. Now, late last night, late last night, I was trying to, I was like, did I have any particular favourite teachers at Canterbury Boys? Have any particular favourites? And I was thinking, I thought about this, and this woman's face came to mind, I was like, oh, yes. So I went through the alphabet trying to, see if I could make a connection to it, and I stopped on L, and the S came to mind, and I was thinking, Miss Lavanus. Now, I'm absolutely certain that she was from Canterbury Boys, like that, not Harcourt. Had Miss Lavanus for science class, Miss Lavanus, and she was partly strict, yet mostly friendly. She was a really good teacher, Miss Lavanus. I think my favourite could have been Miss Garofano, but Miss Lavanus, she was really good. And then there was Mr. Cox. I think his first name was Brian. Mr. Cox, who was the head of math. and then I ended up remembering. Oh, I think Mr. Mackenzie was the deputy at the time, but I can't be for certain. Mr. Mackenzie. So Mr. Mackenzie, but Miss Levanis, Mr. Cox, he was the head of maths, and yeah, Mr. Trotman, Mr. Mr. Trotman was okay. Can't remember Mr. Trotman's role, but Mr. Trotman used to help out the deputy in the 1980s, in the mid-80s. He would help out the deputy do things. He may have been connected to math or history, but Mr. Trotman, and I only remembered his name last night, was a small guy, about this high, but no one messed with him because he really carried himself well, quite assertively, and he didn't take any crap from the kids either, because he had to issued all the sick passes out of him for sport and all that kind of stuff, and Mark was doing other things. And now I mentioned Mr. Henderson before. Mr. Henderson was this tall, right? This tall, and I challenged him and I gave him a lot of crap all the time. Well, not just for the hell of it, but because we had a bit of we got along and we didn't get along. But yeah, anyway, I've said about all that. Forget about it, didn't get along, and I think, and also when I got kicked out of the library, I just sneaked back in. He finally managed to kick me out again because he couldn't keep an eye on me all the time. Sick bay. So I was starting to feel sick and nauseated at school. So half the time that I went to sick bay, I was really not well. Another half of the time I went to sick bay was that I knew that there was classes coming up that I wasn't going to enjoy, so I went to sick bay. And so yeah, I did that. And this is wrapped up now, concluded. But the video will continue. But this is March 25, 2024. This is the last piece of footage that I'm doing. Yes, last piece of footage that I'm doing. Because that's it then. That's it then, alright? Because that's it then. Okay? Geez, that's it then. That's it. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Metalwork class. And there was a couple of propositions there, a couple of things there. Was build a go-kart, which I think a guy named, I can't remember his name. I actually can't remember his name. He's the only one that built the go-kart. Build a go-kart from scratch. One guy did. I managed to get a handle. I think I managed to get. I didn't pass the class. I opted to build. We had options. There was like two options, maybe two options. Build this or build a go-kart. I opted for the go-kart. I think I got a frame done. There's one guy in the class. He built his go-kart and he drove it to school, and I think he got an A. I think he got 100% on it. The teacher came out. I think Mr. Day came out and marked him on it, and he went on to a mechanic apprenticeship. I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but he built his go-kart. I probably should have opted for something else. I was so excited about building the go-kart. Yeah, I was so excited about it. I got part of the frame done. But he came up to school and he did so well with it, so well. Patrick Kieran, Ghosts of the Past. Okay, this can be concluded now. I think this was meant to go for about 10 minutes. repertoire. It's meant to go for about 10 minutes. It's meant to go concluded. This is now concluded.